Good afternoon, Tony Dottino here. It is another week come and gone. It's Friday afternoon, time for my Live with Tony before we go into the weekend. And here is my current issue of Mind, Mood, and Memory magazine. A newsletter comes out of the Massachusetts General Hospital. This is the April 2022 issue, and it has a couple of really great articles. The one that I just read today that really hit me is the impact of social contact. Let me get that basketball game out of the way. I just knock the sound off and play basketball. The positive social interactions, what happens with social interactions or the lack thereof, and how it boosts cognition. And I thought this article was absolutely superb. It really talked about the fact that humans are social by nature, meaning it's innate within us to want to be in social contact with other people. We have our vision that comes into play, our hearing comes into play, our emotional and rational memories come into play when we're meeting with people. We process facial recognitions and facial awareness as we do. It just tells you that there are so many processes from the brain that come into play. We think about our thoughts. What are we going to say to the person that we're going to be talking to? What are they feeling? What are our emotions? What are we thinking? What are they feeling? What am I feeling? God, it's a circle. And it has so many. I mean, I'm talking here in this paper or this article that was written talks about the positive impacts of social interactions and how many of our brain processes are engaged when we're doing so. And so we do talk about our social and emotional memories. We talk about the rational things, our thoughts and feelings and how we're going about. What is something that may be causing us stress? What is something that happened to us that's giving us an uplift? And what it was suggesting in this article is for days after those social interactions we've had where there was a positive interaction, it carries with us for days and has an impact on reducing our stress levels. It has a positive impact in bringing our life's purpose to bear and provides a boost in brain power in the net of the whole thing. At an emotional level, social interactions can be stressful. It depends on what the interaction is, but it's still an interaction. Or they can be very rewarding. They can be something that we really look at. The important thing about all of this is whether or not we feel we're in isolation. Do we feel, during COVID especially, do we feel that we've been in an isolated period, and has that created a level of loneliness? So where we feel we're alone in the world, we feel that we've been isolated from the world, and therefore those have a negative impact on our cognitive functioning, but it also has a negative function, an impact on life expectancy. Because what research is finding is when people feel that they're not connected, they're not with other people, then what's the point? Because by nature, I already said, we're socially interactive desires and things that we want to do. Now, this article did a really great job of answering the question that I've been raising for the last 2 years. Does the social interaction have to be in person? Well, what they found is that researchers counted in-person interactions with phone calls, chats, texting, and how engaged were the people in those conversations. So if you're having a phone call with someone, are both parties engaging, or is one person not a phone person? I mean, I have grandkids that don't like talking on the telephone. So trying to talk to them on a telephone is a story in itself. But texting, now I don't know that that's social interaction, because you're texting, you're not seeing the person's face, so you lose the vision, you lose some level of emotion, you lose a level of seeing their face, so you lose some of the critical processes that are vital for brain function. But at least if you're a texter and a Facebooker, you're staying involved, you're at least communicating. Uh, Helps you with your levels of engagement, and that's really what's important. Individuals who interact with others more frequently perform better on tests. So they did a series of tests and they discovered that if you interact with people more frequently, now it doesn't mean you have to interact with 1,000 people. What they're even talking about is, do you have a group of people that you can talk to, that you socially stayed active with, even during COVID? In school, kids have their friends, they have their team. They have their buddies and partners and pals and different friendships of one kind or another. And it's, hey, I have some connection to somebody other than myself is really what's key. A recent study of 11,000 older Americans suggests that in-person contact may be a protection for falling into depression. And that's back to the loneliness and the perception of isolation. The perception that you have is you're alone and you're isolated, which is where they now begin to link cognitive decline. How much contact is necessary? This article goes on to ask. Well, this is an interesting one because you can almost give this answer yourself. It depends. Well, it depends on what? It depends on the person. How much social interaction do they have or want in order to feel like there's a purpose and there's a reason for going on, and there's a level of excitement and positive feelings that they get from the ability of meeting a friend for lunch or having a cup of coffee with someone? And how long does that go on? Can you get together with someone for, hey, in 20 minutes and you're like ready to leave them? Or is it something, hey, I'd like to spend 3 hours with them in terms of catching up? So what is important about it is what each individual feels is the right amount of social interaction, and that's based on the individual. How many people do they need to be socially interactive with? Do they need to be in the middle of Times Square in New York City or in a Disney park? Or can they just meet with 3 or 4 friends and have a cup of coffee or a couple of cocktails at the end of a workday? It's important to recognize there are considerable differences as to what the optimal number of interactions and people are by individual. So it's not one size fits all. Like, if I get to meet with 3 or 4 people in a day, a couple of conversations with my neighbors, my next door neighbor, meeting somebody out when I'm running and I finish my run and I start walking, somebody walking the dog. I need to get out of the house at least once a day. Now, when I get out of the house, I don't need to meet 1,000 people. I don't need to go over to the Disney parks and start meeting, thousands of people crashing and cramming and going through whatever. I don't feel like I need to go to any of these sporting events where you've got people packed in arenas and stands and stuff. But to some people, they may feel that they have to be a part of that. Other people are happy just to know they have a couple of close friends they can pick up the phone and talk with. But the important thing, as this particular research really stresses, and I can't stress it enough, is overcoming the feeling of isolation and loneliness. And that seems to be the key. And as I've talked to you over the last 3 weeks about the brain fitness work that we're doing with a group of people who have signed up for a program, their social interaction in meeting people twice a week has been huge. And as we debrief today's session, the biggest takeaway they're having is finding new friends and not feeling so lonely. And they just are having a great time and meeting one another and participating in some of the activities of the day and what's in the curriculum, but not feeling lonely and isolated is the biggest takeaway that we're getting to hear day after day from these people. So with that, find a friend, talk about a basketball game. Hey, baseball season's going to come back in April, and have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.